And it's interesting the way he's describing God as if it's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. He's like, I knew you were gracious. It's like, oh, what's wrong with that? Yes. I knew you were merciful. Like, yes, exactly.
Right.
I don't understand why you're mad. I understand why he's mad though. But at the same time, it's just funny, like picturing somebody being mad at you being nice.
Right.
And I talked about it. I talked about it with my husband, and I was like, I think I do that. Because my dad is one of those people who's just super forgiving and super nice. And I used to get so upset. Like, be mad. Why are you so nice? Like, why do you keep letting them do this to you? And he's just like, he would say stuff. And again, I grew up in a Christian household. So he's like, I'm just showing God's love.
What is going on, XYZers, XYZ Nation? We back up in the building doing what we do. Going through books of the Bible. Yeah. Don't that sound gangster?
I don't know, gangster is the word. Please.
Oh, man, we're glad that you're watching us. Glad that you're tuning in. Hopefully we'll have another fun episode of going through Jonah, chapter 4. And nice I forgot what I titled this. What did I title this one?
I was confused at this title, so I'm not. It said me, myself, and I. But.
Oh yeah, me, myself, and I. See, I'm dating myself again. That is a. Oh man, why am I drawing a blank?
Me, myself, and I is all I got in the end.
No, that's not the one I was thinking about. Beyonce. Plug 1, plug 2, plug 3. Pasta Noose. Why am I drawing a blank on their name? Oh, my wife is going to be so disappointed in me. But there was a song back in the 80s called Me, Myself, and I. And it was by, I can't remember the name, but the names of the people. They called themselves Plug 1, Plug 2, and Plug 3. I remember one of the person's name was Pasta Noose. That's all right. I'll play it for you later. XYZ, X, Gen X, y'all can throw in the comments how disappointed you are in me because I can. De La Soul. There it is. There you go. That's the name.
It's on the tip of your tongue.
Huh?
It's on the tip of your tongue.
It wasn't actually because I was struggling. But that's where I got the title from. But you have another song.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were thinking of. But I also was like, what are we talking about here? So I guess we'll figure it out as we go.
Okay.
I get it.
You do?
Mm-hmm. All right. Because I concur.
Okay. All right, cool. So we will be talking about the title. And before we get into that, we need to introduce ourselves. Okay. So I am the latchkeyed one himself, the former X-Man representing Gen X. What up, my peoples? And next to me, we have...
I am Maya, the resident millennial.
And next to Miss Moyo is...
Jasmine, the microwaver.
Yay!
Together we are...
Generational Scriptures. All right. I don't have nothing to bring us into this.
I think we haven't been doing that anymore.
No, we haven't.
So I like that. Let's go. Let's go in.
That's good. Okay. Let's dig in. So let's start with Jonah, chapter 4. Oh, we need a recap. We want to go back through.
Yeah.
We're going to make this a segment. This is going to be like, this segment. So this is what I'm thinking, right? It's going to be the all right, so boom segment.
Yes, that's what it is.
Right?
Yes.
And I'm going to figure out some graphics or something. And there's going to be an explosion or something.
This is for season 2, right? Season 3. Oh, we moving through these seasons.
We are. But welcome. This is our all right, so boom segment.
So chapter 3, Jonah.
Wait, hold on. You gotta be like, all right, so boom.
Yeah. But you already said that.
No, but you gotta say it.
Listen, that is not in my vocabulary. I'm gonna do it the millennial way, the way I want to do it.
Gosh.
We do things the way we want to.
That's some very millennial thing.
Sorry,
yes.
But anyways, Jonah. In Jonah chapter 3, last episode, we talked about Jonah. So chapter 2, he ended up on being spit out.
Yep.
And that was after his prayer and all of that. So chapter 3, he's now has to keep his promises. So God tells him again, hey, Jonah, go do what I asked you to do the last time. And Jonah's like, okay, I'll go ahead and do it. So he goes to the city. He says his little words, like 5 words. He basically telling them, y'all about to die. Y'all got a little bit of time. Y'all about to die. And the people actually repent. All of them, like everybody, including the animals. Everybody repents. The king, it gets to the king. So Jonah didn't even go to the king. But the word gets to the king. And he puts out a decree that everyone needs to basically repent. And so they are fasting. No one's eating, not even the animals. Like, and God relents, which was Jonah's worst nightmare. So yeah, that's pretty much chapter 3.
That's
that was
chapter 3. Yeah.
I don't know how we talked about it for as long as we did, but go back and listen because there was a lot in there. There's a lot in there.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting that, walking through, and I'm going to call it the dichotomy of Jonah and his seemingly nonchalantness. I know that's not a word, but him being nonchalant versus the vigor with which the people responded. Yeah. I think to me, that's a big thing in that chapter. Yeah. So with that and finishing up our eyes, so boom segment, we're going to jump into Jonah chapter 4, verses 1 through 4.
Yes.
And it reads as follows. But it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he was angry. And he prayed to the Lord and said, O Lord, is not this what I said when I was yet in my country? This is why I made haste to flee to Tarshish. For I knew that you are a gracious God and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love, and relenting from disaster. Therefore now, O Lord, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. And the Lord said, do you do well to be angry? So, why are you mad, son? What do we think about Jonah's displeasure?
It's backwards for one.
It's backwards?
Yes, because, okay, let's think, right? When you're in church and we're talking about repentance, right? Mm-hmm. Your pastor is normally, or like people are just normally pleased, happy when you're like repentant. Like, right. Yay, this is great. I'm like, that's what we want. Whereas after Jonah delivered his word, and I can see it being in a very petty, very like Jonah way, like, yeah, you about to die, y'all about to die, y'all get yourself together. After he delivered his, he's upset. You're upset that people are turning to God. You're upset that people are repenting. We know his attitude towards the Ninevites, though. So it makes sense with his personality, his character that we've seen so far. But it's just backwards, Jonah. Like, gather yourself quickly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting the way he's describing God as if it's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. He's like, I knew you were gracious. It's like, oh, what's wrong with that? Yes. I knew you were merciful. Like, yes, exactly.
Right.
I don't understand why you're mad. I understand why he's mad though. But at the same time, it's just funny, like picturing somebody being mad at you being nice.
Right.
And I talked about it. I talked about it with my husband, and I was like, I think I do that. Because my dad is one of those people who's just super forgiving and super nice. And I used to get so upset. Like, be mad. Why are you so nice? Like, why do you keep letting them do this to you? And he's just like, he would say stuff. And again, I grew up in a Christian household. So he's like, I'm just showing God's love. I just love the people. And I'm just like, forget those people. Don't talk to them ever again. Like, I would be so upset, like Jonah. Like, leave them alone. Don't help them no more.
Yeah.
But
that's interesting.
But when I first read it, I was like, Jonah.
Right.
But now I'm like, dang, okay, how about I talk to myself?
Yeah.
So
that's wild.
Yeah.
And it's wild because the word displeasure is actually, and you mentioned this in the previous episode, like ra'ah, which is like evil. Mm-hmm. So it was really like is going to the point where Jonah is saying, this is really evil in my eyes.
Yeah.
Right? This displeasure is evil, and it's just leaving such a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah. It's the same word basically that God was using for the Ninevites, right? So he's using that on God, which is crazy.
Yeah. Which is great. Which gets back to what you were saying, Jasmine. It's backwards.
Plus, let us not forget that when it is in Jonah's favor, when he needs God please, like he's welcoming of God's grace and mercy. But then when it's not in his favor, then it's God, why are you so gracious and so merciful? Like, like, do you want it or do you not want it? Because it's one way or the other. It can't just be when it's you.
Yeah.
It's
me, myself, and I.
For real.
Yeah. I don't know, because we don't know of anything else about Jonah. And I don't know if it's just because of how evil these people, because in chapter 1, we talked about how evil they were.
Right.
And so he's like, I haven't done nothing that bad. I can get the grace and mercy.
Not you, though.
Not y'all. Y'all are terrible.
Right. So, and then, this makes him so upset that he's like, take me now.
Kill me, please. Let me die.
And this is to me, it's like the second time he's done this. Right? The first time he was on the boat, he was like, toss me over into the storm. I'm going to die. I got seaweed wrapping around my head, behind bars in the mountain at the bottom of the sea.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a goner. And no, a fish comes to get me. Mercy.
Yeah.
But here again, it's like this replaying episode where he's like, anytime anything is bad or wrong, he's just like, all right, that's it. I'm done. I want to check out of here.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that can be people sometimes too, right?
Yeah.
Because we can think that when something goes bad, or if something doesn't work out the way that we want, or we may have even put ourselves in a bad situation but see no real recourse. It's just like, all right, I'm done. I'm ready to check out.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that that's a play on, I believe it was Elisha, where he was being tormented isn't quite, it's too strong a language, but he was constantly being harassed by prophets from other gods. And that caused him to flee, right? And be in this state where he was really down. And then the Lord came to him and refreshed him and gave him food and such. And it's like, Jonah, you ain't that bad, bro.
It's like, it don't have nothing to do with you for real.
You just got saved by a miracle.
Right.
It's not that bad.
You know what it sounds like to me? Okay, this may offend some people, but I'm not trying to be offensive. It sounds like younger sibling syndrome. When the world is ending if it's not your way.
Oh, wow.
The second it's your way, all things are good. Life is great. Love you. You're the best.
Yeah.
It sounds like a younger child with their parent. And I can attest to this because I'm an older sibling with a younger one. Love my sister down. But it's, and like as people, you know, that's just our nature. Like we want it when it's good for us. We love when odds are in our favor. But to be angry about it is just like the posture of your heart. And I was kind of thinking like from this point, like from right here up till verse 4 and earlier, I said, Jonah's not changing. Jonah's kind of like steadfast in his belief that justice needs to be served. Lord, they don't deserve anything that you're going to give them. They don't deserve to be like for the wrath not to fall over them. And I just don't understand how we'll see in a few, but God is looking out for you. So who are you to say that he shouldn't look out for other people?
Right.
Yeah. It's just the how extreme the situation is.
Yeah.
So I think people, and again, I think it's the two sides. There are some people who will go to preach to someone who is on death row. No matter how heinous the crime was, they will preach to that person in hopes that they'll be saved. Right. And there's some people that's like, nah, let them get what they get.
Yeah.
So we should be those people that want them to be saved. Right. But it's hard when know what they've done.
Right.
Like you don't feel they deserve it.
Right.
And it's not for us to judge that, right? But I don't know. It's a complicated situation.
Well, it is. But when you think about it, none of us deserved, in God's eyes, to be afforded an opportunity for heaven.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't matter how small, air quotes, a sin you think you've done.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not on death row, but you've still done something to go against the Lord.
Yeah.
Right. And he, by every right, can be, I mean, it's his, he created it, and be like, nope, I can't have you around me. I'm holy. I can't have any sin around me or anyone that's committed sin or anything unclean. So you guys are donezo. But he didn't do that, even with his bad. It reminds me of the parable of, and I'm going to paraphrase the parable. The parable of the guy who has this huge debt that's forgiven. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like this huge debt. I forgot what it is. It's like a whole number of talents. And it's like, if you worked your entire life, you never make this amount of money. And he goes, and his entire debt is forgiven.
Yeah.
But then this same guy who's owed money from someone else goes, and it's substantially less.
Yeah.
Denarii, like days of wages. And it's substantially less. And he goes to him and it's like, nah, you're going to jail. Right? And it's like the guy that forgave the big debt comes back and said, I forgave you.
Yeah.
How are you not extending that same grace, same mercy to someone else?
Yeah.
So it is hard. I'm not this, but I think that we as believers should ascribe and aspire to that, that forgiveness that starts, that talent in terms of wages and money that we see in that parable, because that's what we all received. If we say that we're a believer, if we believe in Jesus Christ, we have a debt that's so big, that's been removed from us, that we should be willing to see others. And I don't get it. It's hard. I get it. I've had to forgive some people who wronged me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I forgave them, much like your dad.
Yeah. Yeah. I be forgiving and letting you go.
Right.
That's the difference.
You're like, all right, I forgive you, but don't come back around here no more.
Yeah. Please stay away.
But it's hard, and I get it, and it's but it's something you got to work at, and something you have to be willing to do.
Yeah.
I still think there's some other things playing out in Jonah's life too. Maybe we can talk about those at the end. Yeah. All right. So, anything else on these couple of verses?
The Lord actually asked him a question.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
What do you take from the question? Anything that you take from it?
It felt like a rhetorical question.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. And
as we go, the question is asked again and it's answered. But I'm like, it's one of those, I think I'll bring it up later, but it's a question that we all can think about. Like, is your anger justified?
Right. Tell him why you mad, son. Tell him why you mad. So, yeah. I when I read that, I was like, what are you mad about? Why are you mad? What are you so angry about? So, cool.
This one commentary I saw said God asks us questions to reveal where our heart lies. I was like, oh my gosh. I don't know if I don't be hearing the questions or if they be sounding like statements. But that's a good point, because there are a lot of questions that, like, as we go through the Bible, like the different books we've been through so far, where there's been questions, and I sit and like, gotta think about that for my own life.
I think is this the first book we've been through where we've actually heard God ask a question? I want to say it is.
Is it?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't think we see anything like that in Joseph's story.
Ruth?
I don't think we see anything like that in Ruth's story.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when we get to our next episode where we do our recap, we can talk about those differences.
All right.
Yeah, plug. Or what is it when you like try and set the scene for someone to continue watching? Cliffhanger?
Cliffhanger, yeah.
So, all right. Jonah 4, 5 through 8.
Yes. Jonah chapter 4, verses 5 through 8. Jonah went out of the city and sat to the east of the city and made a booth for himself there. He sat under it in the shade till he should see what would become of the city. Now the Lord God appointed a plant and made it come up over Jonah, that it might be a shade over his head to save him from his discomfort. So Jonah was exceedingly glad because of the plant. But when dawn came up the next day, God appointed a worm that attacked the plant so that it withered. When the sun rose, God appointed a scorching east wind, and the sun beat down on the head of Jonah so that he was faint. And he asked that he might die and said, "It is better for me to die than to live."
Jonah. Here we
dramatic.
go again.
I was just about to say, it's so dramatic.
Going over the top. So, one of my questions when I read this is, it seems like it's like a recap, because we see Jonah being displeased that nothing happens, it seemed like, in the first couple of verses. Mm-hmm. And here it's like almost like going back and doing a rewind to like after he preached, after he went out to the east of the city to sit down and to watch what would happen. Is that crazy?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know about this Jonah.
I wrote down that Lecrae has this song Sidelines, and it's about him not sitting on the sidelines, or there are other people who are sitting on the sidelines instead of getting in the game. And that's what I feel like Jonah's doing. He's like, I did the minimum. I said the words that I was supposed to say. Now I'm gonna sit out here, and what happens is what happens.
Yeah.
I've got no care about these folks. I don't want to go and help them any more than just saying those words.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I think I like the idea that this is going back from the first couple verses we read.
Okay.
I like that idea, because then it's more so because I think at first when I was reading it, I was thinking about it as he already knew what God was going to do. But if you read it the opposite way, he's watching to see what God is going to do. Right. And then it goes back to the top like, oh, you really forgave those people.
Right.
So, yeah, I like that idea.
That's what I was reading. I was like, this the way this is set up is like he just left, and he just left the city after saying the words he needs to say.
Yeah.
So
he's like, there's still hope. Let's see if they die.
It's like, bruh. Yeah. Again, his backwards nature. It's like you don't want to see, man. You don't want to see him live. You don't want to see him thrive.
Yeah.
They be telling my wife, you don't want to see me be great. I know you do, honey. But anyway, so anything else? What else did we pick up from these couple of verses? That's one thing that stood out for me.
Well, so first of all, Jonah is pleased, obviously, now that when God relieves him of like the heat with some shade in his plant, right? Great. A plant appears, out of thin air. Jonah did absolutely nothing to earn or deserve or do anything for this plant. This plant just appears, right? And it's providing you with what you need. And he's happy. I feel like, what's the word? He's not sad. He's not like, he's angry at parts, but there's a word for somebody who's just in constant negativity. What is it?
Like a pessimist?
Yeah, like he just has a steady pessimistic attitude about him. That's kind of like the tone that I hear every time Jonah's like says something here. But the like it seems like this is a positive for a second. But then when it's gone, kill me.
Yeah.
Like, Jonah, please. Okay, so your shade's gone. You're gonna die. Right. So that was too much. But you know what? When I read this, I don't know. Okay, so for my microwavers, I feel like I don't do this very often, but I have to. Y'all know the term that is out right now. It's like, if you need that, I'm gonna give you that. So this is what it sounds like.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know either. That is true microwave, and I try to keep up.
I was like,
oh my God. Yeah, go. Okay,
so you have to explain what that term means.
When people are... So my sister says it a lot about me because I've had a fiery attitude for the past few weeks. But when people try you and try you and try you, they're like, so you need that from me. You need that from me?
Okay.
Because like, if you need that, I'm going to give you that.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what it is.
That can be taken a couple of different ways.
I know. And that's why
you
it
like,
has to
you
be
need
put
that?
in context.
Hey, I can give you that. Or it could be like, oh, you need that? I'm going to give you your piece of space.
Well, guess what? If for me, the past few weeks, it's been, oh, so you need that. Okay. That's what Jonah is. Well, God and Jonah's exchange right now. That's kind of what I feel like it's given, because Jonah, he needed shade. God gave him that. No. Okay. Jonah was angry. Angry, the ancient word in Hebrew for angry, it translates to be hot.
Yep.
So you was hot.
He was hot.
You need that? I'm going to give you that. But obviously God wasn't, I feel like it was to teach him a lesson, obviously, that like you weren't deserving, or you didn't do anything for this plant or this shade or this relief. God gave it to you. What can be given can be taken away. He took that away as well. Mm-hmm. But who's to say that the people that you are like hating, that I'm giving them some kind of relief and some mercy, don't also deserve it? You know, even though they didn't necessarily do anything to deserve it, it's something that I think the thing I read said that like God is a God of all people. So it's not just you because you think you deserve what you want, or just you because you haven't done this heinous crime. God's gonna spread it across everybody, from the murderer to the liar. Yep. It doesn't matter. So I thought that was interesting, but I was irritated because Jonah just he's keeping on with this like one extreme to the next. It's just too much for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
I also like the fact that we get to know what God is doing. Mm-hmm. So it's like God did this, and then God did that, and then God did this. Like there's no guessing. It's not a happenstance type of thing. Yeah. They're telling you specifically, God made this plant grow, and then it gave him shade. Then God took it away, and then God made his head burn. And I'm like, Jonah, you know you could leave. You don't have to sit out here and watch.
Right.
You don't even have to be here, but God is still, he's like trying to prove a point here. Mm-hmm. And he's not getting the point. No. He's just upset. No. He's not getting the point at all. He's like, just kill me now. How about you go into the city? How about you go to a different city? Right. How about you go find yourself some shade? You don't have to sit in this exact spot and sulk.
This dude. And did y'all pick up what he did when he left? Because he went out to the east. He sat down. He built a hut.
Yeah, he got comfortable.
That hut must not have been doing anything for him, because he needed that plant to ultimately give him shade.
Yeah.
So he tried to do something for himself, and it didn't work. Another thing that's interesting is how many things has God appointed in this book?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Right? How many things has God appointed? And how many things has God had a direct hand in, and how many things has God had an indirect hand in? Like, you see his overtness and everything, just like you said earlier.
Well, I would venture to say, I was thinking about that on the way over here. I think that this story, all stories, I feel like are stories about God, but I feel like the story is less about Jonah and more about God, especially because of us being able to see how he works directly, tangibly, and indirectly in this story. I think it's more like, and I feel like I'm like a broken record, I say this every time, but it sounds like a story about God's character. And for someone who doesn't know God or understand God's character, I think this story really accentuates who God is, and like who he is, and like where we stand. And what I mean by that is like, I think we are entitled as a people. And we think that we are entitled to God's love, or entitled to God's mercy, or like, no matter what I do, God's going to forgive me. So like some people willfully will, I guess, test God. I feel like we talked about that before, like testing God versus like the latter, the opposite. But people do it with no care in the world and they take for granted like who God is and what he's able to do. So to see both extremes of like God showing mercy and like being softer and gentler, and then seeing like in other stories and other books that he can also lay that heavy hammer down indirectly, not like coming directly to you saying, here's what I'm about to do, but seeing the plan work out is interesting, especially for like baby Christians like myself. So I think it's good. And I'm, like I said, I've been heavily focused on like God's work in here. And I can kind of see why people be like, this is a fake story. I can kind of see why they think that, like why this is just a story to teach people about God rather than something that actually occurred. Either way, I think it makes its point.
Yeah, I think it's real, but
I think it's real.
There are some people out there that say it isn't. So, what do we think about Jonah sitting on the sidelines? We mentioned it. Do y'all see it the same way that I did in terms of him just sort of sitting on the sidelines? Do we see that today?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. The way you said, I think when I read it, I was like, Jonah's folding his arms, like okay, how's this about to go? Like kind of thing, just to watch everything unfold. But why? Why? Why is he doing that? Why do you guys think? What is his motive behind it? Because I see people doing that in the real world, but for a different reason.
So I think I was asking it like, if you are really about ministry, if you are really about doing the Lord's business, do you just go and preach and then just leave it there? You know what I mean? Or do you do something else to help people along?
It's like the whole making disciples or discipling people versus just talking at them.
But even, I mean, it didn't even have to be discipling, but maybe he could have stayed and helped put sackcloth on some of the animals, right? Or, I don't know, done something else. I mean, he couldn't feed them or give them water because they were fasting. But, it's like sometimes I think we just think, I'm going to give you the gospel and then that's it. And true, that's enough. But sometimes people need a little more than that.
Yeah.
They could use some additional help. So I was like, he's sitting on the sidelines. He's just like sitting back to watch what happens. But he's not in the game doing anything else to help these people.
Yeah.
Right. Knowing that there's some doom coming to them if they don't get it together.
But that's what he wants ultimately. He wants them.
I know. And I guess that's my question. If you do that, is what you're really saying is, I really don't care?
Yeah.
I
think so.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I do think so. And I think it's similar to when, like, churches, we've been members of different churches, right? And it's always the same, like, core people doing everything. And everyone else just comes to church, they hear it, they go home. But are they serving? Are they trying to reach others? If there's a call to volunteer to go do X, Y, and Z, you probably won't see them there.
Yeah.
And they feel like, I'm doing my part, I go to church. It's like, that's not what we're called to do. It's not just to come in the church and listen and then go home and act like everything is fine. And then next Sunday you come back.
Yeah. That's that. I didn't even think of that level, but that's a very good point. Very good.
When we were in Hawaii, there was a church we went to and they were very big on service.
Right.
Like probably more than 50% of the church was actually serving. And I had never seen that before. And so I think I volunteered to serve one day and I'm expecting maybe 10, 20 people show up.
Right.
It was so many people, like they were just looking for things for people to do because so many people showed up. And I was like, I've never seen this ever in all the churches I've been to. But it was good to see, like, and they were serving the community. I think some people were like planting for a school, like, so that it would, what is it called? Like making the campus look nice,
right?
Like that type of thing. Some people were handing things out. Like you had enough people where we could spread out. Like it wasn't so like And then at the end of the day, I didn't feel drained because I didn't feel like I was working the whole time. Like, and you could actually talk to people, and it was just good to just see people out there serving, and nobody was even preaching.
Right.
It was just serving, and people are happy about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at our old church, we also had the youth, but I don't know if we were forced. That's the thing, because we all did it.
Right.
But
it's like, all right, come on, y'all going with me.
It was pretty much like that. It was like all the youth are doing this, so we had to. But those times were fun. Like I remember going out in the community, and it was fun because we all be like on the bus ride up, we singing in the bus, and we're like being really loud and obnoxious, but we're singing Christian music, and we got the windows down on the bus, and we're just being obnoxious kids, but we're having a good time.
Right.
And then we get to where we're going, we do whatever our service is, and you have people walking up to us like, what are y'all doing here? Like, who are y'all? And that gives you the opportunity to say, oh, we came from this church. Yep. But how many adults volunteered with us?
Right.
Very few. Yeah. It would probably be just our youth pastor and maybe one other person, but it was just the kids.
Yeah.
Like the people who could really do the work of evangelizing were not out there with us.
Okay.
So it's that whole, like, I don't think that people even, they don't care as much as you would expect.
You would want them to, right? Yeah, especially for something you're serving the Lord. This is about doing what He wants done. And if you say that you profess to be a believer, shouldn't you be about what He wants?
Yeah.
So that's very good illustrations. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And that's talking to myself as well, because life happens, and then you're like, all the things that you thought about doing or want to do is like, well, I have to do this. Oh, I have to take the kids here. Oh, I have to get to bed at this time. Oh, I have to wake up at this time. I don't have time to do X, Y, and Z. Because I asked to volunteer for something and they told me to come at 10 p.m. And I said, 10 p.m.? I was like, I am a mother. I don't be up at 10 p.m. But then it has come up so many times since I've been reading Jonah. And now I'm like, I might have to show up. One of these times I have to show
10 p.m.
up.
is pretty crazy, though.
But that's the time that the kids are there. And so they have, every Friday, they have a Friday night type of thing. Oh, okay. And in order to get kids from, instead of them going to a club, they come to church. And they're saying they having 50, 60 kids at church.
Yeah.
And we don't have enough adults there.
To help.
And they're just like, just come for an hour.
Right.
And I'm thinking, give me the 8 to 9. I got that. But they already have people at 8 to 9.
That's because nobody wants to do the 10.
Right. But these kids are there 12 o'clock midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. Like they are hanging out.
Yeah.
And they're doing something that's safe.
Yep.
So I would love to go. I'm just like trying to get my brain to be, I'm gonna leave my house at 9:30. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, that is. But to your point though, it's not. And we said this earlier. It's not always going to be easy. Yeah. But it sometimes it's going to take some sacrifice. To do some.
And and actually, if I really thought about it, it's perfect for me. Mm-hmm. My kids are asleep at 10 p.m. I have no reason. It's just the sacrifice of me getting those extra hours of sleep. But the next day is Saturday. Yeah. Take a nap. Like you can make it work if you really want to make it work.
And that's a good point, because that's what I was going to say. Sometimes I think we just need to make the time for things that you think are important.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes it's just saying, this is important. I need to make the time for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Jonah has nothing else to do.
Right.
And he's wasting his time.
Sometimes I think about that, like, as being lukewarm. I know, because I feel like I do that sometimes, where when people talk about evangelizing, how do you say? I'm like, yeah, I do that. I mean, I talk to people about God, and I give like biblical advice. I feel like as my first go-to, I'm trying to make that a habit for myself, like to teach myself to make it my habit, my go-to.
Yeah.
But I'll do that, and then I'll step back and be like, okay, did my part.
Yeah.
And like, I really seriously did think that that's all I needed to do. Like, just give them that nugget, let them ponder it, and go about my merry way. But I've heard that referred to as like a lukewarm Christian. Yeah. Like you only do half the work.
And I don't think it's necessarily bad to just plant the seed, right? And you may not go back to that person and say anything else, but you could pray for them. You could add them to your list of okay, these are people I need to pray for.
Yep.
Like there's other things you can do. It may not be physically getting up or saying anything again to them, but still keeping them in your mind. Like Jonah is thinking, I want them gone. Like that's all he's thinking about. He's like, yeah, I did my part. Hopefully it doesn't work. Like that's crazy. Why do your part if you don't want it to? If you don't want it to produce any fruit, don't even plant it.
Why even work? I'm just like, yeah. But hey, Jonah was being obedient. He learned his lesson and did what he was supposed to do. But
that's still then a new question of, is that obedience? Is that true obedience? Yes, he went to tell them, but is that all God is asking of us?
Right. Do you care about the people?
Yeah.
Because that's the greatest command. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your strength, and with all your minds. And the next is to love your neighbor as yourself. Are you really loving your neighbor as yourself?
Yeah.
That's a question we all have to ask.
Yeah.
But does Jonah even love himself? Because he ready to die at every corner. He's like, take me now.
Take me down, Lord. That's crazy. He's Jonah's wild. Jonah's a wild boy. All right. So, anything else on those couple of verses? I had a couple more questions, but what do you see having the bigger impact on Jonah's happiness?
That plant.
Yeah, his comfort is what I was thinking. Right? His comfort is paramount to everything else that's going on.
Yeah.
So much so that when it's taken away, he wants to die. Oh, gosh. Jonah. All right. Anything else on those couple of verses?
No.
All right. Verses 9 through 11.
All right. Jonah chapter 4, verses 9 through 11. But God said to Jonah, do you do well to be angry for the plant? And he said, yes, I do well to be angry enough to die.
Goodness gracious.
And the Lord said, you pity the plant for which you did not labor, nor did you make it grow, which came into being in a night and perished in a night. And should I not pity Nineveh, that great city in which there are more than 120,000 persons who do not know their right hand from their left, and also much cattle? That got me. Okay, so I was reading that. I read that 2-3 times before I could really understand, because I was a little confused at first, and I still am a little bit confused. But that's what I mean when I say, who is Jonah to think that God shouldn't give mercy to everybody? Because like when he said, "Don't know their right hand from their left," you know, I thought about a baby.
Yeah,
I thought about a baby who knows nothing and really literally don't know their right hand from their left. They don't even know they have hands, you know? Or right.
I don't even
you gotta
know
do the L.
This is L, right?
Yeah. Wait, don't get. I was gonna say, don't get me. I've done that before and still had the wrong hand.
I was like, does the L go this way or this way?
That's quite literally like, imagine a stupid baby. Right?
It's gotta be a baby.
A regular baby.
I mean, like, okay, not stupid, but you know, babies don't know anything. Empty minds. They're like la-di-da-di-da, quite literally. They're like they know of nothing. And God, like, or even like, you know, those when what are they, like, terrible twos, like when they're like beating on things, breaking stuff. You have that, and then it's the same for somebody, I don't know, some random person who's also mind is empty, with nothing, that's with no good or whatever. You have two ends of the spectrum, but who, like, they don't know any better. So I have to show them the way. Jonah, I feel like Jonah knows better. I don't know. Yeah. You know better, but you're choosing to do wrong. I'm going to still help you through and help you through and help you through and help you through, just as I have to help them through, because they are also, well, then that begs the argument, like, he's willfully sinning or willfully being disobedient. I don't think they're willfully being disobedient necessarily. Do they know that what they're doing is... They don't know that what they're doing
I think they know what they're doing is wrong. Like, just regular wrong, not even biblically wrong.
Yeah.
Just we're evil people. We do evil things.
Right. The decree says that, right?
Yeah.
Turn from your evil ways. Right. Yeah.
But do they care about its effects? Like they don't, like you said, it's wrong, but biblically we're going against God. I don't even know if I think that's a consideration they're making.
No. I don't think so.
If they're going against the Lord, no, that's not a consideration.
Right.
But I think they do know, just as Moyle said, it is wrong.
So it's willful.
Because they're like, hey, y'all, we need to turn from our evil ways. Or we about to be out of here in 40 days.
We are wicked.
I mean, some things are just evil. No matter if you are atheist or a Christian, it's evil.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because then I don't know if my comparison makes sense.
No, but I think your point is valid, because when he says they don't know their right hand from their left, there's something that they don't know that would hopefully have them not to have gone down that path in the first place.
Exactly.
They don't understand the consequences.
Right. They may not.
To them, I think we're getting our way.
Right.
We're doing whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
And we get our way.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's checking us.
Right.
Nobody's beating us. Like, we're good.
We're good.
I don't care how I get it. I got it.
Right.
Right.
Which is, I think, a sense of not knowing your left hand from your right.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. Like, in my mind, that's, you teach people. You teach them. You give them an opportunity to be better and do better. Sean says it all the time. Know better, do better. Just be better overall, and you can only do that once you've been made aware. Yeah. And you've been giving that chance. Yes. And that's what he's trying to do. And Jonah is just, I don't know. He's not living for it.
Right.
And what you said reminds me of, because God asked him, are you right to be angry again? And he's like, yes. And it reminds me of a couple of days ago, my son, he just talks the way he talks. So he'll be like, do this, or he doesn't understand manners fully yet. Okay. And so my husband is like, who are you talking to? And the boy is like, you. Because he doesn't understand that you're trying to be, he doesn't understand that you're upset. Right. You asked him a question, he answered it literally. He's talking to you. So I'm explaining to my husband that is taught. Like the idea that you shouldn't talk to someone that way, and for him to know not to say you when you say who are you talking to, that's a taught behavior. But at the same time, I don't want him to lie and be like, oh, I'm not talking to you. He was talking to you. To correct that behavior, you should say, hey, that's not how you talk to someone. You should say this, right? And it's like it's the whole baby thing. Like he doesn't know his right from his left. He just knows that these are words. I use them, and you could be upset if you want to be upset. I said what I said.
Yeah. Who do you think you're talking to right now?
That is such a
he doesn't understand that though. He's too young to understand sarcasm. He's too young to understand rhetorical questions. Yes. Everything is literal to him. Yeah. Who are you talking to? I'm talking to you. Like, if you tell him the sky is green, he's going to be like, the sky is green? Really? And he's going to go check. He's going to be like, no, it's not green. He's like, I was joking. He doesn't know that you're joking.
Okay, I get it.
It's a great analogy to put for this. Yes.
But Jonah is not a baby, and God said, "Is it right? Yes, actually, I think it is."
But I think now that I think about it, he was throwing a little tantrum. I think
he
right?
was. Yes.
He was like pounding his fists on the floor, crying.
Yeah.
And not to mention, the Lord's like, "You pity the plant in which you did not labor."
Right.
What did you do to deserve this plant?
Right.
Did you put it here?
Right.
Did you prune it?
Yep.
Did you water it?
Mm.
You ain't do nothing. This plant appeared, and you should be grateful. But instead, you're like, hello. This worm came and took my plant. My shade is gone. I'm hot. Wow. Lord, kill me. Like, what are we doing here? And it's just so crazy. It goes back to the entitlement. Like, I don't understand. And that's why reading this, I don't see like the growth in Jonah at all.
And I don't know that any of us have said that word entitlement before, but that I think hits the nail on the head with Jonah.
That's what he is.
He's entitled.
Entitled.
Yeah.
my generation, unfortunately, I will say, we suffer from a little bit of that, and younger, because we think that everything should be silver platter. However, when you see that is not, that's not, it's not right. It's not necessarily appropriate. Our parents, their parents, everybody had to work for everything they have. Nothing is given to you free. Like, we're just going to hand you opportunities. We're going to hand you all these good stuff. It doesn't happen. But Jonah here feels as though his existence, his presence is enough for him to have what he wants from God. And it's just appalling. But it's a testament. Like, we all need to be really thinking hard about this. Like, my I'm going to say my age group, like, heavily. Because what did you do to deserve what you think that you should have right now? That new car that you told your parents that they need to buy you. What did you do to make it that is something that you should have, not something that would be nice, something that you may have worked hard for? I don't know. When I read that, I said, "Oh gosh, that's what is it called? Conviction." Yeah. I was like, "Oh Lord, yeah, I hear you."
Yeah,
and I would want to take it just a step further, because I think that Christians. So if we think of Jonah, right, and we think of that time period, Israel is the apple of God's eye. Israel is who God chose, right? So they feel entitled because they are the chosen. And I think Jonah in particular feels entitled because he's part of Israel and he's part of the chosen. And for anyone else to get anything else from God that he would give to his children, Israel, is just wrong. Without realizing that God actually put Israel in place so that other nations would see them and be like, what do they have? I want some of that.
Yeah.
Right? So now that the opportunity has come for someone else to sort of see how awesome the Lord is, Jonah's like, wait, that's for me.
Oh my gosh.
And I think Christians do that too sometimes. They're like, I got mine.
Yeah.
You know, I'm good. I believe I'm going to heaven.
Yeah.
Right? Just like Victor, what you were saying on death row. Yeah, you don't have it. Sorry.
There's a quote that says exactly like what you're saying. In one of these commentaries I read, it says, this is how Jonah thinks. We are God's chosen few. All others will be damned. There is no place in heaven for you. We can't have heaven crammed.
It rhymes.
They try to do bars.
I was like, that's so crazy. I never thought about it like that, like at all. That he was like, God's, like, what comes with being saved, like God's mercy and like being a child of God, even going to heaven, is for me.
For us.
I did not think about that. Yeah. That's a really, like, I'm really appalled by Jonah. What gives him these? I would like to know more about Jonah, because like, what gives him these thoughts?
I think what you. Good question. Do you want to answer?
I don't know what gives that man his thoughts. I feel like you already kind of said it though, that he's a part of the chosen people and he feels they're the chosen people. Yeah. Ain't no room for extras.
Right.
That's crazy.
And I guess we also aren't at the point where they are going out and making disciples. Like when Jesus came and made that a thing, then people still were confused. Like, what you mean? Let the Gentiles in.
Right.
So Jonah is way before that. He's like, ain't no room for the rest of y'all.
Yeah, none of y'all, nobody else deserves what the Lord is giving to us. No one else deserves it.
And we're following all these rules, and y'all just get the reward off of nothing.
Yep. And even now, I think that there are some people out there who say, no one else deserves what I have. You're living an alternate lifestyle, you don't deserve it. I don't have to talk to you. Yeah. You've committed certain murders or certain crimes, you don't deserve it. You don't, or dare I say, you don't dress the way I dress or talk the way I talk. You don't deserve it. It's easy, I think, for us to fall into that.
Yeah.
And I think that we have to be cognizant of that, because what I think we're seeing in Jonah can be happening now, where we can just sort of sit on the sidelines and be like, nah, they don't deserve it. I'll go and tell somebody something, but won't follow up. Won't pray for them.
Yeah.
So that's one of my things from there. Anything about the anything about the contrast of the plant with the city that stuck out to you all? I think you touched on it, where you said you didn't create this plant. You didn't. You didn't work for it. You didn't labor. You didn't make it grow. You didn't do anything to cause. The Lord says, I appointed that plant to grow. And I appointed, just as you said, the worm to eat away at it and for it to wither and then cause it to get hot so that you'd be uncomfortable. Yeah. But what does God say about the city, about Nineveh?
It's a great city,
yeah. And it's to the point where it's like, where you are pitying and you were happy about all of these things, this plant that I caused that you had nothing to do with. What about all of those people, 120,000, that I did create? How about this city that started small, more than likely, and now has grown into this city that I consider important? If you pity this plant that you had nothing to do with, how much more should I pity 120,000 people, a city, and even all of the livestock that's there, that I created? The earth is the Lord's and the fullness of thereof, the world and they who dwell therein. I think that's Psalm 24. So I think that's the what God is trying to show Jonah here is like, yeah, you're upset about this plant. You let this plant guide you. This plant gives you comfort. You're happy. It goes away. You're sad, but you had nothing to do with it. But you still consider it. You still pity it. You still look for it to give you what you want. But I got 120,000 people that I set in that place at that time. Go look at Acts 17. Should I not care about them? Should I not want them to have chances to get it right?
Yeah.
So Jonah's being having his eyes opened, shall we say, to that difference.
Yeah. And on a lighter note, we have to talk about the cattle, because remember, they were fasting and in sackcloth too. It's like, also, and much cattle.
Right.
Don't forget about them.
Don't forget about them. Created them too.
Yeah.
Oh man. So last thing I'll ask is, what about the ending? What does the ending do to you? Does anything?
I feel like for Jasmine's, Jasmine likes people to have character development.
Yeah.
They just cut it.
It's just like,
yes,
that's it.
It made me so mad. I really was like, when I was describing the podcast to someone else, right, to tell them that they should listen to it, I was like, they asked like the gist of what the intent was with our characters and how we choose, right? And I was like, well, I feel like as a theme, so far up until now, we've had great character development.
Okay.
And you can see how they grow and how they change with the different circumstances, and like how God's plan works out. But you, like, from start to finish, you see a change somewhere, right? Then we get here, and I'm telling you, I had to keep rereading this last chapter. I was like, I'm gotta be missing something, because there has to be some pivotal or like a mind shift, or like a submitting somewhere. No, nothing. And so that's why I was thinking, like, okay, Jonah, this is not about you. We're not gonna focus on you, because really I think this story is about God. So, and like how he works. So I guess he can stay all bitter if that's how he wants to be. But that, I was just very disappointed, because at the end of the day, I was hoping that the different, like, after he was spit out by the fish, and then after the plant, like after God showed him mercy twice, on multiple occasions, but in those two circumstances, I thought it would invoke some kind of heart posture change for him.
Yeah.
So sad.
Did you have anything?
I would just say that normally I am annoyed when things end abruptly.
Right.
But because of how much of myself I saw in Jonah, it was more so a time to reflect. Like, okay. And I always say I don't like application as much. Like, I just tell me the story. Right. God will talk to me separately. I don't want to pull it from here. But basically, I was just like, yeah, basically some of the stories I've said so far it's me reflecting. Like, hey, are you Jonah? Are you doing at the end of everything? I think in one of our seasons we asked, how do you want to be remembered? Right. This is all we're going to remember of Jonah is the bitterness, is the not wanting people to be great.
Yeah.
Him being just self-centered. Is that what you want for yourself? And as much as I want to say people remember me how they remember me, but at the same time, I don't want them to remember me like this. Not self-centered.
You're right.
So maybe I do care a little bit about how people remember me. And maybe this is my opportunity to say, not necessarily for the remembrance part in total, but to actually do the work, right? Do the work that God has called us to do.
Yeah.
And not do it in a bitter way. Right. Not do it like grudgingly. Right. Like we get told a lot, God likes a cheerful giver. And it's not just for money.
No.
It's for everything. Everything that we're doing. Like even coming to record this podcast, right? We wanted to do the podcast and we want to talk and we want to do community together, but we also want to reach people.
Yeah.
We want people to learn about God, learn about his character, learn about the people he's used in the Bible. Like all of us should see ourselves somewhere in these stories, right? And that should tell you that you can be used too.
Yeah.
Even though Jonah was bitter, he was used and he saved these people at the end of the day. Whether he liked it or not, you were used.
Yeah.
And it would be better to be used and feel good about it, right?
Yeah.
And to appreciate all that God has done. It doesn't, like in his prayer, he seemed like he was appreciative, but that was just for himself.
Yeah. That's
even
in the prayer. So I think when you say prayer, I think you're talking back to chapter 2.
Yes.
Yeah. Even when in his prayer at the beginning of chapter 4, one of the commentaries I read said, notice all the times in that prayer he says I.
Yeah.
So that just gives you an indication that it was more about him and what he was getting than anything else.
So now the title makes sense.
Me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
And I like that because when I read it and it ended the way it ended, I was like, why? And I think it's just what we just said, right? What you all just said is, boom, it ends abruptly. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What do you do with this info? What do you do with what you've just seen of Jonah? How does it make you feel?
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, that's why I think it ended. That's what the ending. I'm not going to say why I think it ended that way, but that's what the ending made me think of.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't be a Jonah. Moral of the story.
Jonah. Man, we've gotten through Jonah now. That's it.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on chapter 4?
I'm disappointed.
I'm sorry. I didn't write it, Jasmine.
We need a part 2. Gosh.
That's it's also a question of, do we think Jonah made it to heaven? I know we aren't supposed to. What's the word I want to say?
Speculate?
Not even that. Like, we don't know how God, not brain. He doesn't have a brain. What does he have? How he thinks. Like how So the people you may think made it may not have made it, and the people who you think, wait, what did I just say?
Yeah, no.
The opposite. Yeah. Whatever I said. But that's something I think about. Like, he's still considered a prophet. He's still considered, and this is a lot of people in the Bible. You're like, you could have made it. Are we sure?
Yeah.
And so the story ends abruptly. We don't know what happens, but he's referenced so many other times. The story is referenced.
Yep.
So it's still an important story, but we don't know what happened to Jonah.
And I think it points to the fact of right? When you say make it, what does it take? And it takes belief in God. It takes belief in Jesus. Mm-hmm. And so if Jonah believed, which he definitely knew who the Lord was, mm-hmm. He called him out correctly, and then being gracious and merciful, he called him out correctly on the boat in terms of who he served. Mm-hmm. So if that's what you believe, then you're saved. Mm-hmm. You believe, as we say, the gospel, then you're saved. That Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sins, that he was buried, and he was raised on the third day. That's the content of the gospel. You believe it, you're saved. Mm-hmm. Now, does that mean that I act right? Yeah. Does that mean that I don't behave like Jonah?
Yeah.
But it's not. It's hard. We can't presume, is what I think you're saying, right? Yeah. I can't say, oh, that person's definitely gone, because I don't know what they believe.
We don't know what's in their hearts.
Believe.
Yeah.
Only God knows that.
Yeah.
So, with that, and that was our little invitation in there, the gospel, the content of the gospel. If you need any or have any other questions, then drop us. We can do DMs and stuff if you need to, right? And then drop us a note in Instagram. Follow us on Instagram, and we can DM and chat it up and get back to you and talk about any questions you have.
Yeah. And there should be a link, hopefully, to more details about that invitation and that call.
Right. Yeah. We'll definitely set something up. Yeah, I think that'll probably just need to be like its own taping, so to speak, where we just talk about that. I think that would be cool. But anyway, so we good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Another chapter down, another book down. Mm-hmm. Again, thank you all for hanging out with us. We look forward to seeing you next time as we do our recap, where we'll be going through Ruth and Jonah. Should be some fun. But until then, we'll see you, and we out of here. Deuces.
Bye.